You'll know when you have a wild woman. She'll practice her craft without boundaries. She is truly autonomous. Her loyalty is only to the family she serves, a midwife who will not allow herself to be held back by a system she didn't create.
This podcast is for the birth keepers who want to grow and change. We are open to learning through self-reflection and supportive community. We are creating this space to explore without judgment. We are remembering we were
Born wild. Hello, everyone. Welcome back to the Born Wild podcast. I'm one of your hosts, Sophia, and I'm just going to throw it right over to you to introduce yourself. We have two wonderful birth stories for everyone today.
Cool. Yeah. My name's Caley, and I am a home birth mother of two boys, aged 1 and 2.
Ooh.
Some people call us crazy.
Yeah, that was how my family was too. Okay, so let's start right at the beginning, whatever that is for you. If it's when you knew you wanted to be a mom, or when you decided, found out you were pregnant, or decided you wanted to be pregnant. How did it all start for you? This journey to home.
Yeah, let's see. So starting it out, years before I even wanted to have a baby, I watched the documentary Business of Being Born. Mm-hmm. And it was back with my ex-husband when we were talking about having kids in our mid-20s, which to me is just crazy to even think back then that we thought we could handle children. And we watched this documentary, and from that, I just kind of opened my eyes to this whole world of home birth and the world of medicalized birth, and I just got kind of obsessed with it. And from watching that movie, I'm super into researching things. So I just, over the course of a couple of years, kept talking to people and learning more about it kind of off the cuff. And at that point, I thought all my friends started having kids, and I thought, you know what, I don't think I really want kids, at least right now. And so that's kind of what led to me and my ex splitting, because I just was thinking, I haven't done enough. I don't feel like I've lived yet. And I want to make sure that I get to live my life so that I'm not resentful of having kids. And so I did this whole year of travel. Me and my ex split, and it was amazing. I just got to experience the world. I did a solo trip around the world by myself.
Wow.
And yeah, it was amazing. I went to Asia, Europe, I went to Africa, I went to South America, pretty much every continent except Antarctica. And I did it on my own. And it was so great. I came back so just grown up, I guess you could call it. Mm-hmm. And within about a year, I met this mysterious Australian man at Burning Man. And yeah, we kind of just hit it off. And he was a little bit older, a few years older than I was. By that point, I was in my mid-30s, thinking, early 30s, so I was maybe 32. And I thought, man, do I want kids? I don't know. And yeah, he really, really wanted kids. And we didn't really try. It just kind of happened. But when it did, we were okay, we're doing this. We're going to do this. And he's such an adventurous spirit too, where I was, I mentioned this documentary I'd seen years before called The Business of Being Born. And so he watched it, and from that moment, we were yep, we're doing this. We're doing a home birth.
On the same page.
On the same page. Yeah. He was so excited about it. I was really, I felt comfortable knowing that he's really good in a crisis. So I felt I could totally trust him being there. With my ex, I felt maybe a little more ambivalent about how comfortable I'd feel doing a home birth, but with Christian, I knew yeah, he can handle this. This is what we should do. Mm-hmm. And so, yeah, we met with a few midwives. We were living in San Francisco at the time, and we interviewed a few midwives, and it's kind of like dating, you got to vibe. And some were too out there for us, and then others were a little too by the book. But we found this really great midwife named Maria, who's famous in San Francisco. She was really cool. We met her, and she was telling us the story of how she had a home birth in the 80s before it was even a thing. She just knew she wanted to free birth, and she did it. And she just became obsessed with birth from that point. So we were this is our midwife. She was that perfect mix of really trained medically, and she had the nursing background and that whole thing, and was in with the hospital. So for a first home birth, I felt if we did have to transfer, if anything went wrong there, she knew the hospital staff and all that, but she was also like really, really good at empowering the woman who was giving birth. So yeah, I felt really comfortable with her. And I don't really have a high pain tolerance. So I think I had all this doubt kind of going into the whole process, like, am I going to be able to do this? I hate pain, and I was trying to like meditate weekly, but I like couldn't get into the meditation, and I was just like starting to like kind of quietly doubt myself. But deep down, I knew it was what I wanted, and I knew that like I couldn't relax in the hospital. I knew I would end up in a cesarean if I went to the hospital with the bright lights and the questions and the all this and that. So I started reading. Like I'm a huge reader, and I like read as many books as I could. Like if you need a book recommendation about birth, like come to me. I will send you like a list of 100 books. Yeah, and I just like a lot of like Ina May, read all of her books and all the different childbirth stories, any kind of stuff I could like intake and hear like a million different birth stories, so I could run all the different scenarios in my head. It kind of like helped me relax, thinking like, I can do this. But I think I also just was like prepared for if I couldn't. I think I was just like, it's okay if I almost expected, like I prepared for the worst, maybe not the worst, but like, I was just like, if I transfer, it's okay. And that's, I'm just going to try it. We'll see how we go. Yeah. So I just took all this information, and it really prepared me. And then the other thing I did was a birthing class called, I can't remember the name of it, but it was with this woman, Rachel Yellen, who does hypnobirthing. And I can't say enough about hypnobirthing. It was seriously a savior during labor, because there's so much to it mentally that I don't think we're taught culturally as women, that like, it's not, we're taught like it's this scary thing, and like your water breaks and then you rush to the hospital and then everyone's like freaked out and the baby's going to just pop out of your vagina, and like it's not like that. It's like actually a pretty slow process a lot of the time,
because that's what we see in the movies.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
And so
you have to
like,
yell at your partner that you hate them and that they did this to you.
Yes, exactly. It's not like you never really see the experience of birth where it's like a communal thing, or like a very sensual thing, or a very just like intimate. It's an intimate thing, and it's slow, and it's like, it can be really peaceful, and it can be, the opposite of that. But yeah, you don't really see that part of it. And it's crazy to me as adults that like you talk to most of your friends and like no one's actually seen a birth. Crazy, like even when I tell my birth stories to friends, they're like, oh, I don't think I've ever actually seen a baby come out of a vagina. And I'm like, isn't that crazy? As adults, we like, even kids don't get to see this stuff in school. So yeah,
it's so important to share these stories, because like you experienced in reading all the stories, it gives you courage to know that she did it, and she did it, and she did it, and she did it.
Exactly. And I think that shared sisterhood of like, even since my own home births, like just talking to friends, and I'm like very passionate about it, but I would never push like my own beliefs on someone else. But I am like happy to share knowledge, and happy to like share books, happy to share resources, podcasts, all that stuff. And it's been so great to see some of my closer friends like actually change their birth from hospital to birthing center or hospital to midwife, and like seeing them have successful births. It's just been like, makes me so happy, without any prodding, just like they saw me do it and they're like, okay, yeah, I can do this if she did it. Yeah, so with our oldest, we didn't find out the sex, and then there's the whole like, do you do the ultrasounds, and like there's so many things you have to think about. And we decided to just like keep it super minimal. And I thought, let's just do this one ultrasound just to like make sure everything's okay. I think we might have done the blood screening. I can't remember, but yeah, we didn't want too much medical intervention because I didn't want to get in my head too much. I remember thinking like, yeah, I don't want the what was the strep B? We declined all that stuff towards the end. It just felt like way too much information that wasn't actually useful. So I tried to figure out what is the information that will make me feel the most comfortable to give birth.
Yeah.
And for me, that was ultrasound at 20 weeks just to like know that the baby's like growing as it should. That to me was the only thing that I really needed to know. Then you start getting paranoid about the breech as you get into, you know, weeks 30 plus. And I remember like crawling around on the floor and doing all the spinning babies exercises because the midwife told me the baby was breech at like, I think I was 29 weeks. And then I got really freaked. So I look back at that and I think I shouldn't have even asked, you know, I should have, because I really got in my head.
Yeah.
And then around the crazy part with our first was around 30, I think it was 32 weeks. I lost my mucus plug. And that was a kind of scary experience. And it was like a lot, like a huge, I think I waited a day because I was like, oh, that's probably nothing. It's probably just normal pregnancy stuff. And I waited a day and then showed my husband. He's like, maybe you should ask the midwife. So I sent it to Maria and she texted me right back and she's like, let's look into that. Because she had seen, you know, people, she was like, clearly that's the mucus plug, and had seen women go into labor like right away after losing it. So then I had to go get checked and that whole thing. And it ended up being fine, weirdly enough. I don't know how or why, but the baby was just still bacon. So
well, mucus plugs can regenerate.
Exactly. So I think, and honestly, it was after a little bit of intercourse, will we say? So I think it was just like, because, you know, you're getting up there and they say, keep having sex, it'll help the baby come, but
yeah,
whatever, you know, you got to do what you got to do. And so I think that it completely related to that, but it again freaked me out. And I remember I sobbed the whole day because I was like, oh no, I'm going to have to like, I'm not going to be able to have this home birth. And like, I was devastated because I was just convinced, you know, that I was going to have to go into the hospital, and it was not a great experience. But, you know, my husband calmed me down. He's like, you know, we'll do what we need to do. Like, it'll be a healthy baby. Let's just focus on the positive. And so I just kind of just tried to meditate, calm myself, not really think about it too much, just kind of do a lot of self-care. And sure enough, we made it to 38 weeks on the dot. And 38 weeks, my husband was actually scheduled to get a tattoo that day. And I remember it was like a 10 a.m. and I woke up and I was getting that kind of period crampy feeling where I was like, this feels like it could be more than just Braxton Hicks. And it was like maybe 10 a.m. and I had a chiropractor appointment that morning. And so I called, I was like, should I still come in? I don't know. I think I might be in labor. And they're like, yeah, come on in, we'll check you out. And my chiropractor is incredible, Kristen Hicks in San Francisco. And so my husband's like, okay, well, I'm just going to go to my tattoo appointment, because we didn't know if I was in labor or not, you know, first baby or whatever. And sure enough, by like noon, it was like definitely coming on more. Get home from my chiropractor appointment, starting to like really hurt. So we go for a walk around Precita Park, which is this beautiful little park nearby where we lived. And it's really starting to hurt and like come on stronger. And I remember there were these two women who had these newborns sitting on, it was a beautiful day, and they were just out in the park with their newborns. And so we walked past them and I'm like, you know, kind of like leaning on my husband a little bit and taking deep breaths. And we go up to them and I'm like, yeah. And my husband's like, she's in labor, like, and you guys just have these babies. And they look at me and they were like, oh, I hope it's okay for you. We both had emergency C-sections and blah, blah, blah. And so I'm like a deer in the headlights, trying to think like, okay, maybe we shouldn't be talking to these ladies right now. So we leave that situation. And then, but when you're in labor, it's like
worst timing for someone to bring up emergency C-section. Oh, man.
I know, two girls sitting there. It was crazy. I was like, what are the chances here? But I mean, pretty high, honestly.
Yeah.
So then we kind of meander back home. Yep, exactly.
1-3 apparently.
Yep. And so we meander back home, and I'm just like really, really feeling it a lot. But luckily, because of this hypnobirthing class, I've learned how to breathe. And so that's what saved me. The breathing, like having a tool to go against the contractions was everything, because it just empowered you to get through it. If I didn't know how to breathe properly through those contractions, I don't think I could have like really powered through it.
Yeah. So or maybe a tool to go with the contractions instead of against them.
Exactly. So like relax, like that was the key. And that was everything I read about. It was like, you don't have to do anything except relax.
Yeah.
relax your body, it knows what to do. And
It's
so in
amazing
my
how
head,
hard it can be to just relax, right?
it's so, yeah, because you're just like, your mind is going, but I think that's the cool thing about labor is like the pain brings you to the present. Like you almost can't think unless you're in a hospital setting or someone's asking you a million questions. But like where I was, it was just our apartment, and my husband was just like leaving me kind of pace back and forth and like let me just like be in my own space. And I moved around. I think I even for that one was like, I'm gonna try like masturbating, maybe that will help. Did not help. I was like, I wish this worked for me, but I remember it just being like, this isn't helping. And there was at some point I was like on all fours on the bed, and I was just like, kind of moving and trying to get into the groove of it. But I had this realization that my body wouldn't relax because I was so scared of like making a mess, of like releasing on the floor or the bed or anything. And I recalled that I can't remember if it was a documentary or one of Ina May's birth stories where the woman sat on the toilet for her birth or her labor. And I was like, I need to do that. I just have to sit on the toilet because then I can just completely relax my pelvis. It's like second nature to do that on the toilet. And I sat there and had the birth tape going. And that's when it was like, this had only, so it was probably 10 a.m. by the time I was like in light labor, probably 3 p.m. where I was getting into like, it was really starting to roll. And this is like 5:30. So I've only been in labor like 6 hours, less than maybe 5 hours, and maybe like an hour and a half of like actual pain. And then I sit on the toilet for like 45 minutes, and all of a sudden my body is like pushing. And I've never experienced this feeling before, but I knew it. I was like, this baby's coming. This baby is coming right now. Because I didn't expect the baby to come till like another day.
Yeah.
Like 2 days. I was really like, I'm in this for the long haul. I know it's going to be like 2 or 3 days. I'm just going to pace myself. So when the baby started coming around like 5 p.m., I look at my partner. He was like, recording everything, all the contractions. And he's like, they're like 3 minutes apart. And I'm looking at him, I'm like, my body's pushing. And I was like, call a midwife. Because we hadn't even called her at this point. Luckily
Did she know labor had started, or you hadn't even like updated?
Yeah, she knew around 11 that it had kind of started. And she's like, oh, maybe we'll have a baby by tomorrow. She didn't see it coming either. And so luckily she lived only like 10 minutes away from us. So I'm sitting on the toilet. I'm like, this baby's coming. Maybe the midwife's going to miss it. I don't know. But, it's so primal at that point. You're just like, really like, you're in a non-thinking state. You're just like, this is what's happening. My body is doing what it needs to do. And I'm just going to go with it. And so sure enough, she shows up at the doorstep, runs up. I see her like poke her head in, and she looks at my husband. She's like, feel up there. Can you feel the baby's head? And he's like reaching up, and he's like, I can, yes, I can feel the baby's head. Because we had planned to do a water birth, and she had told me like, don't get in the tub until it's active labor, time to push. And so I like, had been resisting getting in the tub. It looked so like nice, but I was like, don't get in the tub. Because
so it was all filled and ready.
All ready. We had it like at least a day set up the day prior.
Well, that's a blessing.
Yeah, it's because we were so scared. Like I was just so scared we were going to go into labor because of the loss of the mucus plug, like any day. So we were pretty prepared. And you're excited. It's your like first baby, you're nervous. And the weirder part was, and I've done this with both pregnancies, I had this urge the night before labor to organize all my paperwork. All of like my filing cabinet of paperwork of like birth certificates and like bills and stuff. And I don't know why, but like it felt so good to have that done.
If only you could like harness that power and control it, right?
It's the only time in my life I've ever done that. It's so funny. And yeah, so then she shows up, my husband feels the baby's head, and she's like, all right, like let's get into the birth tub. And she's like, helping me in. And at that point I had these birth tapes on that were like, it was pretty crazy because my contractions would start timing. The hypnobirthing tape would say like, breathe in, the surge is coming, like take a deep breath and breathe out. And it was just so cool how like I was timing to this tape. And so when I got in the tub, the speaker was in the other room, and I remember being like, I was laying there and I was like, I need Rachel. And I need Rachel. And but like everyone was like kind of running around, and no one heard me. And my midwife turns to me and she's like, I don't think you need Rachel. And I was like, it was really sweet because she's right. Like, it was just like, I didn't at that point. I was like, so, and she was like empowering me in a way. And that was the coolest part. And I experienced this for my first birth, this moment of quiet. I remember getting in the tub, and there's pictures of me like just floating there. It was that like kind of calm before like truly that pushing phase comes. And I was just, it was just calm. Like everyone like settled down. I laid there, I was just breathing and like floating in the water. And it was just like this beautiful moment of bliss. And then all of a sudden this huge contraction comes, and I knew the other thing that was really helpful to know going into it is I knew that as I was pushing, as like the baby's head started crowning, it was gonna burn. Like, what do they call it? The ring of fire or whatever, as you're stretching. And I think I had read so many places that were like, it might feel like it's tearing, but you're not. Or even if you are, like, it's okay. Because I remember thinking, if I hadn't known that, I would have been scared, and I probably would have like contracted because I would have been scared I was ripping. But I knew that it was a total normal sensation to feel that bit of burn. And so I wasn't scared to like fully relax and push, like let my body open.
Yeah,
so I think
that sensation equals stretching, and stretching's a good thing. Yeah,
exactly. Because it's really, that was probably my least favorite sensation the whole birth. Just
it's usually not many people's favorite.
It's terrible. It's really terrible.
It's very short-lived for most.
Yeah, exactly. I remember in my second birth, once I got past it, I was like, oh, okay, it's over. But yeah, that really helped me, because I think had not, I would have like definitely restricted more. And so yeah, it took maybe 2 to 3 pushes, and his one push, his head was out, and then 2 pushes, his body was out, and he came out in the water. And as soon as he came out of the water, he just was like wailing, just like, wah, wah. And I just remember, like, it's funny because in the pictures, my husband's just like tears and like happy, like just, and I'm just like in shock. I was just like my jaw is dropped open. I'm staring at this child, this human that just came out of my body. I remember just being like completely in shock, and just wanting to comfort him so much. But yeah, I remember he
the
just
baby or your husband.
Yeah, exactly. Both of them. No, it was so cute that my husband cried. I loved it. I'm like weirdly, I'm an emotional person, but in moments like that, I'm like not the one who cries. He is, which is,
it's actually really common for women to like need a minute and to be in shock, like you said, you know, not like clinically, but just like, whoa.
Yeah, like all of your like adrenaline's going, everything is just like pumping, and you're almost just like, wow, it's next. Yeah, it's
some people kind of compare it to like if you ran a marathon and as soon as you crossed the finish line, someone handed you your trophy and you're like super appreciative of the trophy, but like, just let me catch my breath first.
Exactly.
Like, I just need a minute.
And imagine if your trophy was crying, just like,
it's
okay, and you don't know how to breastfeed or like what to even do with this child that's come out of you. And so I think it was also a lot of like, because I think leading up to it, I didn't grow up with like a really great attuned mom. Like, she was not the best mom. And so I think I had all this fear, like, am I going to be able to take care of this baby? Like, am I going to be a good mom? You know, it's very classic fears, but I think it was all that fear realized in that moment, like, this is it. Like, now I have this child, like I need to take care of him. And like, I remember feeling almost like he cried for like a good like 20 minutes. And I remember feeling like scared that I couldn't get him to stop crying. And like, I'm already off to a bad start and things like that. So I kind of like look back at that birth and I'm like, what I imagined in my head was not quite what happened, which is like, you know, the baby comes out and then like latches and like it's this happy moment. I remember just being like kind of like stricken with fear because I couldn't get him to quiet and I didn't know how to get him to latch. I didn't know how to quiet him down. So for the first like 30 minutes, I was just like, oh no, I don't know what I'm doing. But obviously, you know, that comes with time. And then I remember the midwife walking up to me and I'm holding him just kind of like panicked that I can't get him to stop crying and he won't latch. And she just like popped her pinky in his mouth and she was just like, boop. and it was like all of a sudden calm. And I just was like, oh,
You could like gather your thoughts a
yeah.
little.
Or just like knowing that like I need to, like, there's things I need to learn, and like it's okay, like it's totally okay. But also I think, since like, you know, working with you, Sophia, which is a very different kind of modality from both, like Maria's an excellent midwife, but it was like, I think I loved hearing you say like they need to tell their own story. And like Finn had his own story to tell. Like he was coming out and he just needed to like cry. He needed to like do his thing.
Yeah. When you were
And
just
yeah,
saying
so
that, you were like,
that was
I
the
don't
birth of
know.
Finn. And it,
Oh, our connection got a little wonky. I was saying, when you said that you were feeling like you didn't know what you were doing and that Finn just kept crying, I was picturing him saying the same thing. I don't know what I'm doing. You guys are both like, I don't
what's
even know
that
what we're
experience?
doing.
Yeah, exactly. And yeah, it kind of, I mean, I guess it's normal to not feel like equipped to be a new mom, but it's amazing how like within the next few hours, 24 hours, like you just, I remember I couldn't sleep. I was just like, I couldn't take my eyes off him. My husband's like, you need to sleep. And I'm like, I can't. I just need to look at him. I just need to stare at him. I need to hold him. And it's just so cool how natural it is to like, to become a mom, even if you're scared of it and you're scared you're going to do a bad job. It was really, really special with Finn.
Do you remember how long Maria was there before he was born?
I think it was like 15 minutes.
Uh-huh.
Yep. She literally almost missed it. If she had lived farther away, she would have totally missed it. So it worked out. And honestly, I don't know. I think I did this with you as well, where I was subconsciously, probably I wouldn't have pushed the baby out unless the midwife was present. I love to think that I would do a free birth in my life, but I'm also like, yeah, I just love like the idea of having the presence of someone who's like been through so many births, like who just knows how to like coach and do that stuff, even though I didn't end up needing much coaching.
Yeah, you didn't need Rachel.
I didn't need Rachel. Yeah. So, but it's just that knowledge that like there's this like sister, like, yeah, this elder or like someone who's been through it and like can share that knowledge, who's there, that gives me that peace.
Yeah, most women want another woman present and to witness and hold space and be there for them. Yeah. So then what was your breastfeeding journey like, and his, your fourth trimester? And
oh man, breastfeeding, actually, I think because I read a lot about it, I did so much reading that kind of prepared me. I think I almost thought it would be harder taking care of a newborn than it was. So for me, it was like this pleasant surprise of like, wow, it's actually not that bad. It's not that hard, because I thought it'd just be so draining and hard. I also, my husband's super active father, changing diapers. He's up at night with me. I think the hard part with Finn, or the hardest bit with Finn, was like day 3 or 4, because Maria came back to do like a check on him, and he had like he had some nasal flaring, and so she was like, maybe you should go get him checked out by the pediatrician, just to like make sure and that everything's okay, because he was just like a little stuffed up, and like she's like, normally this is what happens with babies, especially with the water birth. There's like some of that mucus doesn't get cleared out, but because of the nasal flaring and like a little bit of chest flaring, she's like, maybe just go get him checked out. And so we did, but the pediatrician that was on call that night at our local, because she said, go tonight just to make sure. And the person who was on call, I can't even remember who it was, this woman, because we're a home birth who is not in the medical system, coming in at night to a pediatrician who doesn't know us, you could see she was a bit panicked. And so she didn't know what to do. And she was like telling us, well, I'm listening to his lungs. It sounds okay, but like it could be a hole in his lungs. It could be this, it could be that. Yeah. And so this is day 3 of, I'm still recovering from birth. And now we have this doctor saying, and we call the midwife, and the doctor's telling us to go through the ER. So like we're in the hospital, and she's saying, take your 3-day-old baby into the emergency room to get checked into the hospital so that you can go to what's it called? The NICU.
Yeah.
We're like, really? Like, is this really necessary? And it was just it was the roller coaster we didn't want to get on, right? This is like why we had the home birth. And so we ended up going to the ER, and then the ER doctor was equally panicked, had never really experienced home birth. I think she used the words like, you home birth people, or like you home birth people. And it was a mess. And so at that point, we're sleep deprived. I haven't really slept in like 2 days. And you're in a medical establishment, you start to like, you really believe this authoritative voice, and they're wanting to do x-rays and all this stuff. And it was terrible. And so for me, I was just, we ended up in the NICU for a whole day, and just, they whisked him away and they put him in the plastic thing, and they're giving him shots and everything we wanted to avoid. And he's crying. And I think the harder part for me was like seeing the staff. It's, they do an amazing thing. Like the NICU is extremely important in a lot of cases, but for me, it was so hard. Like our son just had a stuffy nose, and the staff's just like handling him so roughly, and they're all chatting and laughing. And while he's just screaming and being held down and pricked. And it was like, I honestly will probably feel guilty. Like as an adult, when he's an adult, I'll just be like, I'm so sorry. Like it just was not, like, it's not how you can tell. It's like not how you should handle a baby. And so we spent a day there, and then 24 hours later, they discharged us, and they were like, yep, it's just a stuffy nose. And we're like, no. Yeah, it was super painful. That was the hardest part of probably both pregnancies and births, looking back. But we got him home. Yeah, he was fine. It was just the stuffy nose, just some mucus. The nurses like cleaned him out. One nurse just cleaned his mucus out, and he was fine.
It's such an important topic though, because in one hand you can err on the side of caution and better safe than sorry. And it's not as simple as that. It's not like you go in and then they can say like, oh, it's just a stuffy nose, and you go home. You're subjected to all the tests because they have to rule everything out to cover their butts. And so like, yeah, for me and my clients, it's like, I always talk about that. Like there is a risk in going in if you don't need it, Yep. And obviously it depends on the family, what their like risk tolerance is, and the risk they're willing to take, like the risk of staying and watching and waiting, or the risk of going in, because there's risks to both sides. It's not as simple as just like, oh, you can go home, it looks fine. Yep. It's not as simple as that.
Well, the crazier part was that after they released us 24 hours later, that I remember being at home all day with him, and he seemed better. And then that night he started really getting stuffed up again, and like to the point where he was like, like really not breathing. And then I was just like, oh, maybe there is something wrong with him, and like maybe they didn't catch it. And you're just like, you're kind of crazy at that point, because you're just sleep deprived and stressed, and like you have a newborn baby you don't know how to take care of. And so I remember like at some point I was like, we should go back, we need to go back to the ER. And my husband's like, what? And I woke him up, and I was like, we got to go back. He's not breathing. And so luckily the ER is like a block from our house, and we take him back. We're like, we're back. He's like, you guys didn't fix him. Like, had him for 24 hours and he's still not breathing. And they check him in. And this was a different ER doctor the second night. And he was incredible. He calmly walks in the room. He at this point has seen the chart. He knows the baby's fine because they've done all the tests, and he's not in a panic. And he just walks in, and he's like, okay. He asks a couple questions. He takes the little what do they call the little nose squeegee, and he's like, okay, show me, because we're like, we tried to clean his nose out and it's not working. And he's like, okay, show me what we did. And we show him, and he's like, okay. And he takes a listen, and he's like, let me see that. And he just takes it, and he like goes real deep, like almost like a COVID nose test, and pulls out this giant yellow like booger that was like, bigger than the child's nose. And all of a sudden, Finn is fine. And he looks at us, and he's like, you guys can go home. And we're like, finally, like if we had him the night before, we could have avoided the whole NICU thing and everything, and it's like, I think it totally depends on the doctors you encounter and everything there. But we were just like so grateful to him, because had it been a different doctor who was like less risk tolerant, I don't know. He told us, he's like, I have 3 kids. He was like, my first baby, I did this all the time, and I would have taken my baby to the ER, but he's like, you guys are fine. And so he's like, you'll learn. And so it was just this like really nice moment of connection too. Like it finally felt like a human to a human and not just like a medical professional and this authoritarian care thing. So we had a secondary experience that was really great at the hospital because of this wonderful doctor. So we went home, and ever since then everything has been fine. He's been perfectly healthy and we panic less, but it takes some time.
It does. Yes. Yeah. And people to reassure you that you got it, so that you build your confidence back up, especially when somebody has taken it away, your confidence, you have like time to rebuild it. It takes time.
Exactly. And to notice that shared experience, like even a doctor is telling me, yep, I was just as paranoid and scared as you guys when I was in your clinic. It's totally normal.
Yeah. I forgot to ask you about your placenta.
Oh yeah, the placenta. So the first, with our first one, Christian, my husband, really was like, I'm gonna eat it. And he likes experience. And so he was just like, I'm gonna eat it and save it and all this stuff. I'm like, that's cool, I'm down with whatever you want to do. And so we put it in the freezer. We weren't going to encapsulate it because we were just going to like put it in smoothies. We're really big into smoothies at that point, but I think we had it in our fridge, and because the first like 3 days were the chaos with the NICU and like running around, we didn't properly like store it, so it was like sitting in the fridge for a couple of days. And so like by the time everything calmed down and a week had passed, he was like, maybe a week in the fridge isn't what we should do. So we actually had to toss it, sadly, like after that. But that's why the second baby, he was very on top of the placenta.
It was important. Yeah. And then I had forgot to ask you about like the birth of it. Was there anything to note there? Did you remember how long it took to come out? Or
yeah, it was super fast. I remember it was like just a few minutes, and it was like that last contraction and it came out fine in the water.
Nice.
Nothing. Well, I feel like nothing. It was kind of similar, I think, to my second birth too, because my water bags didn't break until I was crowning, or like until I started pushing. And so my water bag came out in like this like whole thing right before the placenta, right after the baby.
And take me to finding out you're pregnant with number 2.
Oh, number 2 is a COVID baby. So we had just bought a house maybe the year before that was like we were working on as a vacation rental, living in San Francisco and kind of going back and forth to Mariposa, out near Yosemite to work on this house. And then when COVID hit, we were like, we're gonna have to go remote. So we just like packed up, child 1. I was pregnant at that point, and we moved out to Mariposa. Oh, I wasn't pregnant at that point. Sorry, this was pre-pregnancy. So we moved out to Mariposa in the country and kind of fell in love. And we just were like, we don't want to leave here. We don't want to go back to the city. So we got rid of our apartment. And in the meantime, we started thinking like, like maybe now would be a really good time to have a second baby. The world's kind of shutting down. We're working remotely and all this stuff. So we started like thinking about it, and then bam. I thought it would take like, I don't know, like 5 months or something, but nope, clearly we get pregnant very easily. So it was like first try, like just instant. And so then we're like, what have we done? Because I was only 6 months postpartum at that point. And it's crazy to me. I think Bodhi, our second, is now 15 months, and like the idea of being pregnant again, I just like can't even fathom.
Yeah. So how old was Finn when he was
6 months?
No,
he was born 14 months. Yeah.
14 months. Yeah.
Yeah, I turned to my husband last month and I was like, isn't it crazy to think if we had been on the same trajectory, we'd have another baby at this point? But but I think when you have 1, 2 seems manageable. And because Finn, our first, is like he's so mellow. He's like, he slept through the night at like 5.5 months, does 12 hours, like really easygoing kid. And we're like, a second child, that's no big deal. We could do this. And, COVID, we can both work remotely. It's kind of perfect. We're out in the country. So yeah, we're like, all right, round 2, here we go. And yeah, it just happened super quickly. So we're like, all right, this is happening. And that Christian really wanted them close together. I kind of more was thinking like it'd be nice to space them out a little bit more, but like also kind of was just like, it is kind of nice to just get it like bam, bam, get them out of the way. Cause I didn't want to have an only child. And so it's kind of like, let's just rip the Band-Aid off. We'll get out of diapers sooner. And yeah, so I was kind of like glad after I had my second, I was like, I'm really glad we spaced it this way, because it just feels like, yeah, it's like the longer you wait, like getting back into newborn phase is so much harder, but we were already just getting out of newborn phase.
Yeah.
So
That's what my husband said to me, because ours are close in age. He's like, it's already hard. Like, why would we wait till we were sleeping through the night and then start over?
Exactly. Yeah. So we're kind of happy it worked out that way.
Well, tell me a little bit about that pregnancy.
Oh man, let's see. I have to admit, I always thought I'd be like this, like majestic, or more like that magical pregnant woman who's just like, but I did not like pregnancy. Didn't like it. I felt sick the whole time. I think because I don't have much, like, I'm a real like lean bean. I don't have much like fat, like to back up, like as backup energy. And so it just really wore me down, like pregnancy majorly felt nauseous.
And you hadn't fully recovered from
I had fully recovered. Yeah. I'm like so depleted. And yeah, second trimester is okay for me, but by third trimester, I was just like so ready. I was like, okay, yeah, pregnancy is not my favorite thing. But it's funny because I look back now and I'm like, maybe I could get pregnant, like maybe I could miss that belly bump, because it's like a really sweet thing. And I think it's like such an intimate thing to have. Like it's you and your baby, like truly you and your baby. And that's really special, like having that. But yeah, pregnancy is really hard on me, and we're pretty outdoorsy and doing hikes and stuff. And I remember being like frustrated that I couldn't like keep up on the hikes and things like that, and just wanting my body back, after it'd been 2 full years almost of being pregnant. And so yeah, that's why you will not see me with a baby bump right now, because I'm like, I need like a full 3 years to even think about having another baby, just to recover. Like you just get so depleted. But other than that, no complications. We decided to because we were living in Mariposa, we tried to find a home birth midwife out here and couldn't find any. So we decided we had a friend, we were trying to figure out what to do. We were thinking about moving. My husband's Australian. And so we thought, oh, maybe we'll go have the baby in Australia. That would be really nice because his mom's there, his sisters are there. We got a ticket. We even found a really great midwife out there. We're going to do a home birth. But then because of COVID and Australia was really on lockdown, our flights kept getting canceled. And so we started to panic. It's like, well, if we can't go to Australia and we can't have the baby here I didn't want to do it without a midwife. We were thinking, oh, maybe a birthing center, but that didn't quite feel right to me. Like I knew I wanted a home birth again. And so that's when I started like looking around. What could we do? Maybe I remember reaching out to some Airbnbs in San Francisco. Yeah. And I was like, I got rejected many times. I was just like, could we rent your apartment to have a baby in it? And the hosts are like, no. Like so much liability. So we tried that a couple times. We were thinking, oh, maybe we'll just like rent a place for a month in the city and go from there. But yeah, none of the hosts wanted to have us. And so then I had this really great friend named Aliki, who at the time was living in Petaluma. And so
for anyone listening, if you want to rent an Airbnb to have a baby, and just don't mention that I'm going to have baby part.
Do not tell them. Yep. Because they don't need to know. It's fine. Yeah. It's just magical. Well, then
you show up with 3 of you and you leave with 4. No big deal.
Exactly. And then you're like, neighbors, here's a baby crying that wasn't there the day before. It's totally normal. But we had even toyed. We had some friends in Portland who had just bought a house and had a basement apartment, and we're like, maybe we'll go up to Portland. And Then we thought, oh, that's just too far and we're not really near anybody we know. So luckily we had this friend who was like, look, I've got a cottage in Petaluma, just live there. And have the baby there. And so we did. So we started like then I started interviewing midwives because I was like, all right, well, let's go where like the best midwife is too. And so I like, called a bunch, and then I ended up chatting with you, and like instantly I was like, this is my midwife. Cool. She gets it. Like she totally gets it. And yeah, you were just like so personable, and like you just knew your stuff, and I was just like really blown away by you. So that just to me cemented the birth plan. I was like, yep, I've got this like incredible woman who's going to be a great resource and is going to help me like be empowered to give birth the way I want to give it. And this beautiful cottage with some friends, like, so it kind of just like worked out to be one of the most perfect setups without even trying, like in this situation of panic where we're like, all these doors closed on us, like this perfect one opened. So that was really great. And I was so paranoid.
How far along were you when all that happened?
Oh, let's see. I think it was 36 weeks is when we came out. So that was funny too, because yeah, like my whole relationship with you throughout the pregnancy, I think I was like,
yeah, I'm looking. I think I have down like 31 and 30. So 31 was like a virtual meeting, and then 35 was a phone call because you thought you were going into labor, and we still hadn't really met yet in person.
Yeah, that was the funny thing, because I think with baby one, I was like, I need a midwife. Like, I think I was like 11 weeks or something, and being like scared that I was late. And then baby two, I'm like getting to like 28, 29 weeks, and I'm like, maybe I should probably find a midwife. But yeah, I remember. Yeah, so that happened. So I must have.
Maybe this goes unspoken, but like that time, your prenatal care was you just taking care of yourself, or was there anything you were doing?
Oh no, I forgot to mention this giant part of my second pregnancy. We decided to do van life with our infant child, and I was pregnant. So we did van life from like, I think I was 18 weeks to probably 28 weeks. We did a good just over 2 months on the road in a Sprinter van that my husband built out. And we traveled up the coast of California. And so that to me, I think you get so much doubt feeling like you're doing it, get judgment, like not many women would go on the road while pregnant, living out of a van with an infant, And I think it was important for me and my husband to like truly like live how we wanted to live. And like not let societal constraints and pressure like stop us from doing that. We weren't doing anything irresponsible. We'd get to our campsite by like 5 p.m. We had a strict bedtime of 7 p.m. for our infant, and it was really great. And we like got to see Utah, and like we went up to Olympic State Park in Washington. We were planning on trying to get to Alaska, but it was so cold. I remember it was so cold. It was maybe August, September, and we would wake up 6 a.m., 7 a.m. with our infant and just be like shivering in our van. And I'm like, we can't go to Alaska. This is too cold. We didn't have a heater in our van. And so we kind of just we're like, let's go to the desert. And so we turned back down kind of towards Utah, and just like a lot of outdoors, hiking, camping. We did a backpacking trip. We did a couple overnights.
It sounds so freeing to just be like, what direction should we drive? Let's go.
Exactly. Yeah. And I remember I still wanted to get my 20-week. Oh no, I had to get my 20-week ultrasound, because at that point we were still planning on giving birth in Australia, and they required it. It's just like a law there. If you're going to do a home birth, she needed like certain paperwork. And so we're like,
it's not a law for you. It's a law for the midwife.
Exactly.
Distinction.
Yes, exactly. So I remember being like, oh, I don't want to have this ultrasound, but because we're doing this, I have to get it. And so we're like, I think we were just outside of Seattle or near Portland, and I was just at 20 weeks. And so we're like driving into the city, trying to find like an ultrasound clinic to get the ultrasound in our van. It was comical. So we did it, but that was pretty much the only prenatal care I really got beyond just being outdoors and like walking a lot and hiking and camping. And yeah, we ate really well. My husband's a really great cook. We had a little like kitchen set up in the van. But I remember being like carrying this like guilt or like fear that I was like being a bad pregnant mom, or I wasn't relaxing, because it's like adventure, and like, should you be adventuring when you're pregnant? I don't know. I mean,
Why
I did.
not?
Yeah, why not?
So
Like,
because of COVID and working virtually, were either of you still working through this because you could just do it wherever you were? Or you kind
no,
of
what
took some time
happened
off?
was I had just gotten back from my maternity leave with my first kid. That was probably, I want to say March or April
Mhm.
of like, so COVID happened, what, February, March. And then I ended up getting laid off in April, which to me was kind of a blessing in disguise, because I got this great severance package. I've been there for many years, and it was perfect. It was like a second maternity leave or something. It was just like I had this like great severance package, and even my employer at that time covered our health insurance for an extra year. So I had health insurance for a full year, and that's why we were like, let's travel, and my husband, he got laid off as well. So it was just like, okay, we have to do this now. Like, this is the time. We're not gonna be able to do this with 2 kids like we can now. And so we did it. And when we got back, I must have been 28 weeks, 29 weeks. And that's when I found you. And we did that like first virtual appointment at 31 weeks. And I just loved it, because I think I remember like telling you, like, we just got back from this band trip and this and that. And you're like, cool. Like, where that sounds fun. Where'd you guys go? Versus like other midwives being like, oh, like
Or
the judgment.
too, when you told me Christian was like wanted to just like free birth, do it unassisted. He's like, let's just do this, me and you. And I was like, that sounds amazing. Why don't you just do that? Like, it sounds like you didn't really need
Yeah.
anyone the first time. You're like, I want another woman there. I was like,
Yeah.
okay, yeah, that makes sense. You're like, just
Yeah, my husband,
one woman.
I need like that estrogen. Like, my husband is great, but he's like so much testosterone. I'm like, I think I just need an extra woman there who's just like my sister.
Little balance.
Yeah, a little more balance to the like, because he's like, we live on this beautiful piece of land out in Mariposa that's got like this beautiful little creek running through it, river with swimming holes. He's like, we should give birth to the baby in the river. And I'm like, that sounds horrible. Like, cold, freezing water, like these like hard rocks. Like,
Yeah.
I like the idea. It's like super poetic to me, but I'm like, no, I'd rather like be near a hot shower and like a cozy bed than like in the freezing cold river. Yeah, so that's like when I knew you were my midwife, because you're just like, no judgment. You were like, how do you want to do this? And I think that was like kind of not, I think in my first birth, I definitely was empowered, but I definitely also looked to the midwife for so much guidance, and it was like, it was my time to like birth the way I wanted to birth. Like,
Yeah,
I knew how to give birth.
your body told you, I can do this, and you're like, okay, I can do this.
Yeah, exactly. And so I didn't need that like external validation or guidance as much. I just needed like that kind of female energy around who like I could trust.
Yeah.
And yeah, so we had planned to move to Petaluma at 36 weeks and just like stay there until we had the baby.
And you did, and talk a little bit about the like preterm labor type sensations you were having. And
oh yeah, that was, so with baby number 1, I was bang on 38 weeks when he was born. And so I think you just go into, it's funny, it's like the same as like you expect your kids to be similar. Like, I expected my births to be similar. So I was like, oh, he's definitely going to be here. Well, first of all, I thought he was a she. So like my second baby, I was like, it's definitely a girl. It is totally a girl. I know my body. It is a girl. I would like refer to her as she. I think I called him little bird in my womb, and I would just be like, I can't wait till you hear little bird. Like, in my mind, it was a girl in my womb. Turned out to be wrong, but yeah, I just like, oh shoot, I lost my train of thought.
The like early sensations.
Oh yes, sorry. So then I remember texting you kind of panicked because we had just gotten to Petaluma, and I was getting like, it wasn't Braxton Hicks, it was labor. Like, I could feel it starting, And I remember being like panicked because I was like, no, 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 no. I don't want to do the hospital birth. Like I want to do this home birth. And you were great. You were just like, I remember you gave some advice on like trying to like the electrolyte drink and like the Epsom salt foot bath, and that like really calmed me down. And but then there was this conversation with you where you're like, well, it's okay to like, the law used to be 35 weeks to do a home birth. Like it doesn't mean your baby's like in jeopardy if you go into labor at 35 weeks, and we could still do this. Just, you know, you'd have to free birth. And I'm like, oh, okay. You know, but like you were just so comforting because it was still empowering. It was still like, you weren't taking the choice away from me. You were like, you still have choice here, and it's going to be okay regardless. And so that, I think, it just mentally calmed me down, because I think I could have gotten so ramped up, and who knows what would have happened. But I took your advice and did this foot baths and the electrolyte drinks, and like the cramps went away, the contractions went away.
Yeah.
But then I was like,
and
convinced.
Just to clarify, it used to be 36 weeks. And I think we had talked too about like lots of twins come early, 34, 35 weeks. And most of the time, like their lungs are fully developed, you know, like, cause that's the big concern at that point. And we talked about like how close we are to the hospital and like what it would look like and where you would want to be and your comfort level of staying home versus going. And
and just like the rationality of around like I was 4 days shy or something of like 36 weeks, you know, and like it's so funny in your mind. I'm like, but I'm only 35 weeks, but it's like, but you're just 4 days shy of 36, which is totally in the realm of a healthy baby. You know, like it's not like you're 32 weeks, 31 weeks, like you're just a few days shy.
It's based on an arbitrary number too that we just decided on. You know, we easily could have decided one day earlier or later or 2 days, you know.
Totally. Yeah, the whole idea of due date is so funny to me. Like the fact that it's not a due range is just insane in this day and age. I think it trips so many people up. And so but then I was convinced throughout the rest of the pregnancy that I was going to have the baby any moment. I remember like texting you at the drop of a hat. I'm like, it's happening.
And especially because you had your first so quickly and you had them very close together, you know, we were anticipating that like, you might give birth on the earlier side and it might be even quicker potentially. And
but then you played out all the scenarios with us with that game, and it was like super helpful because it just like, you kept just like giving me reality, which I loved. I was just like, you know, you get so worked up, you start to like lose your mind a little bit in that third trimester when you're so close to the end date, and you just want to meet your baby and you just want to know what they're going to be like. And it just feels like eternity. Those last few weeks can feel like a long stretch. And so I think the other thing was, because I had a toddler, we also had a dog. It's just like, you know, it's really important to like feel calm and like relaxed, and, you know, labor will come at any moment. But I remember like feeling like labor would start to pick up, and then, or I like feel it. I was like, okay, this is definitely it. I know it. I know it's definitely it. And then something would happen where like my kid would cry, or like a loud noise would happen, or my husband would be like, oh, it's happening, I'm going to go tell our friend. And I'd say, no, don't do that. Because then it would just like completely stop. Like all that like oxytocin that was like kind of happening for me would just like stop dead in its tracks. And so it was hilarious because I ended up going 42 weeks and you called it. You were like, what if you have the baby on January 11th? That's a cool number, 111. And you like nailed it. You're like, what if you went to 42 weeks? Like, it's totally possible. And I'm like, I won't make it to 42 weeks. There's no way.
Well, and my notes say you were a day shy of 41.
Really?
Yeah.
Oh, I thought I was 42. Oh, so, okay. To me, it felt like 42 weeks.
That might have been it because we were ready so early that, you know, we were like just
like 5 weeks of just like.
And I think we had talked about the 42-week mark so often, you know.
You're right. Yeah, because I'm thinking 43 is the threshold. No, because 42. You're right. It was 41. Because I remember thinking like, okay, I have 1 more week to have this baby. Because, you know, that's like that 42 cut like threshold where it's like, then you can't have a home birth and that whole thing. But you were also super reassuring there too. And like, I just so appreciate, like, you didn't add stress to the situation. You just like you were just so empowering. It was awesome.
Mhm.
And so 41 weeks, but oh man, it felt like 50 weeks.
Yeah, I bet.
I was doing like the yoga. I tried everything to get, like we tried sex, we tried yoga, we tried like I was doing the spinning baby stuff. Oh man, every day I'm like, nothing worked until I figured it out.
Yeah.
I did 3. So there was like 2 things I did the day before labor, because I felt mentally like there was something stuck with me. Like I felt like I was getting mad at my husband, and I like had this resentment around, like I kept thinking like, oh, he's just like, we would get in like a fight. If I felt like labor was coming on, somehow we'd get in a fight. And I'd just, I'm hormonal, and I'd be like, oh, it's because of you, this baby's not coming out of me. And like, stop picking fights with me, like while I'm like in early labor. Obviously that's not true. Like it's like totally just a made up narrative in my head at that point. But I met with a doula just via phone, a recommendation from a friend. She like just talked me through and like had me release all this like anger and resentment and like fear. And it was like such a beautiful mental exercise to just like release all this stuff I was holding on to. And so, some deep-seated things. And I think even more fear about like having 2 babies. Can I do it? All that stuff that was kind of like holding me back. And then the other thing I did was later that day is I don't know if you tried the breast pump method. Maya or Ina May talks about the like stimulating the nipples can like bring on labor or whatever. So I got my breast pump out, and I was like every day, like, or that day for like every few hours, I would just put the breast pump on. And then that night I said to my husband, I was like, I need oxytocin. Like, we're not going to get in a fight. We're just going to, and I was like, and if I start feeling labor, I'm not even going to tell you. We're just going to like, I was like, I just need cuddles. I need cuddles and quiet and peace. And we put the baby to bed, and we just cuddled, like real cuddles, like where you're just like, oh, it was just like lovely, and just like petting each other's faces and like laying there. And we just kept joking, we'd turn and say oxy. and you just felt it, like it felt like a drug, like just like soaking ourselves in like the cuddle hormone. And then sure enough, go to sleep at 4 a.m. I feel the contractions, and I'm thinking, oh, this can't be it. Like I've had all this prodromal labor. And I didn't tell my husband. I just kind of got up and I started pacing around, and I was like, maybe this is something. And then he just saw me. He kind of awoke in at like 4:30, and he's like, this is happening, isn't it? And I was like, no, it's not. This is not happening. I'm just pacing.
42 weeks.
Yeah, I was like, it's not. I promise this is fake. And then I just kept pacing and pacing and pacing, and he could tell. And so he jumps out of bed. He's like inflating the tub, and then he's trying to like fill it with water. And like the sounds, I don't know if a lot of pregnant women experience this, like especially in labor, sounds are so harsh. Everything is so loud. And I remember just being like, oh, this is unbearable, the sound of splashing water. And so I went out of this little cottage. It was beautiful on this piece of land in Petaluma. And it was still dark, and it was like very, very, pitch black out, but you could hear the crickets. And like I remember just like kind of kneeling down in the grass, and like I was like, oh, like I truly felt like a wild animal. Like I like went from this kind of like loud water splashing brightly lit cabin out into this like dark woods where I'm like listening to the crickets and the frogs. And I just like kneeled there for like must have been a good 20-30 minutes just to like breathe. And like then it started coming on strong. And I wasn't even timing my contractions at that point, but I knew I was like getting close to active labor. And I knew you were like 40 minutes away. So I go inside and I look at my husband. I'm like, call the midwife, call her now. It's happening. And sure enough, you got there just in time. I think I sat on the toilet. I did that same trick from labor number 1, where I just sat on the toilet for 20 minutes. And then sure enough, I'm like, it's happening. This baby is coming. I can feel it. And the tub wasn't even filled. And I remember being like, Christian's like, Sophia's here. I was like, okay, can you ask her like, what birthing position should I get in? Because I was so expecting in my head to be in the tub, and it didn't even occur to me that I wouldn't have the tub and that I could give birth in another way. And so she's like, well, she said, just whatever's comfortable. And so I just was like, okay. And I got on all fours, and just like the baby, I had my birth tape on, and I just kept telling myself to relax, and sure enough, out he came in a few pushes. But the cool thing was, because I knew so much about like I knew what to expect, I was able to be really present with it. And like, yeah, it was such a cool experience to just like, I wasn't screaming, I was like really controlled breathing, and I could like feel every push, and I just like it was like the most present I've ever been in my entire life. And I remember at some point I hear Christian whisper, he must have turned back to you, and he goes, "Is this okay?" And instead of like panic overtaking me, which I think could have happened had I not been more present and like just like in my animal brain, like, and not in my thinking brain, I didn't let panic take over. I just pushed, because his head was out at that point, but his body wasn't. So I just did one more or two more pushes, and then out he came. And then I come to learn later that like he was born in his water sac. And so his head came out, and then Christian noticed that the umbilical cord was around his neck a few times, which is actually, like we talked about before, a fairly normal thing that happens. But when he saw it, he was kind of freaked out and didn't know what to do. And when he turned back and asked you, like, "Is this okay?" You just were like calmly like, "Yep, everything's fine. Just like unwrap it when you can." And it was like the most smooth, calm birth. So yeah, credit to you again, like for just like not freaking out, not jumping in. Like Christian was so excited to be able to like birth the baby. And like he still tells people, he's like, "And the umbilical cord was around the neck, and I got to unwrap the cord and like break the water sac." And yeah, so it was a really cool experience for everybody.
Yeah, it was beautiful. And I was there for 4 minutes.
That's crazy. Yep. Fast and Furious. I don't know. Yeah, it's all about the relaxing. The jaw trick was a huge one for me too. For all you birthers out there, relax the jaw. It's the key.
Yeah.
It opens the pelvis for some reason.
Yeah.
Yeah,
So that labor was 2.5 hours. How long was your labor with Finn?
Probably 5 or 6, I want to say, total.
Which is like
similar.
They say it's like your second birth would be half, so that sounds about right.
Right. Yeah, that makes sense. Well, it's funny too, because I think there were all these fears like with our toddler, like who was going to watch the toddler while we're birthing, and it ended up just working out so perfectly because he was just still asleep. And then as soon as Bodhi was born, like I remember like he was just like woke up. So it was like the new baby's here. Our toddler had just woken up from his like perfect night's sleep where he didn't wake up at all, which is crazy because we were like running around the house, like banging stuff and splashing water, and he just like didn't wake up. And then that was the most magical moment, I think, too, because like I think there's something in like how you picture your birth. And I had pictured my first birth going a certain way, and it definitely was great and amazing, but not how I pictured. But this birth was exactly how I pictured it. It was crazy. Like the sun was, I even remember thinking like, I wish I would, because we loved the sunrise in that cottage. It was like so incredible. It felt like you were on the moon seeing the sun come up every morning. And I remember thinking like, man, I hope I can like give birth during sunrise. And sure enough, like Bodhi arrived at sunrise, and like the light was just so magical in the cottage, and like it was so everything was so peaceful.
It was so foggy that morning. I almost ran off the road because I was trying to hurry, but it was like thick fog, and I had to slam on the brakes because I almost went into a ditch.
Because it was out in the middle of nowhere, like this farmland.
Yeah. And I love the like beautiful image you just painted. And do you remember the first thing you said when you saw your son?
Yeah. Oh man, because I thought it was a girl in my womb, like, and then I'm looking down through my legs and I said, "Oh my God, look at his balls," or something. Like he has the biggest balls.
He has huge balls.
Yes, because he has the biggest ball. We sometimes, his name's Bodhi, and we call him Big Balls Bodhi Bras. because it's like this tiny skinny baby with these giant like nut sack, and it was
He's gonna love
hilarious
to listen to this story when he's older.
yeah, well, I think it's almost like a, like a, you thought I was a girl, well, I'm not.
Yeah, I'm gonna really show you. Yeah.
Oh,
And I love
dear.
too in the video how your dog comes over and is like sniffing him and
Little
while
bit of him.
Christian's still holding him and
Well,
yeah.
that was cool too, because in the birth video, we shared that with some friends. So our friends who lived in Portland, who were thinking about having our baby there, they were pregnant soon after we had Bodhi. And she's more of an anxious person, and she was like, I don't think I could do a home birth. But after I showed her that birth video, she's a huge dog person. They have a dog. And she said after she saw our dog like be at the birth and like our baby's head, she was like, I have to do a home birth. So she ended up having a really successful home birth.
Oh, I love hearing
Months
that.
after. Yeah, so that's what's so cool about it, I think, and that's why I love talking about it. I'm super open. I'm like, hey, you want to watch my birth video? Here you go. Just sorry that my anus is inverted, like just because I think it's just like really inspiring for people who are scared of it.
Yeah.
So
Well, I think it's important to know that we turn inside out when we give birth,
We certainly do. It's something that we should all see, because it's a beautiful thing too. And I think, yeah, all the disgust we have around births is for no reason. Like it's a really, really cool experience.
Well, what about anything to note about your placenta being born and what postpartum was like for you with breastfeeding and having two babies?
Yeah, that was interesting. I think because I felt more confident with breastfeeding, it went fairly well. I don't remember any like hiccups. With Finn, I remember being like paranoid he wasn't getting enough milk because he was just a small baby. He's still tiny. He's just a little guy. But Bodhi he drank so much. I remember like, man, I was just like, I can't believe I can produce this much milk. This is nuts. The thing with him though is he had more of like a colic experience, and he was just more upset than Finn was all the time. And so I ended up like trying to cut out dairy and doing like a whole, food elimination diet and all that, and like nothing seemed to work. And I was telling you just before this call, like now that he's older, like I see that that's just his temperament. Like he's just a louder baby. He just is more emotive. He's crankier. That's just his personality. So it's funny, like even as a newborn, you see that. And then with the placenta, I think I remember just like laying there for a few minutes and birthing it like fairly easy. I think I produced large placentas too. Like I remember for being like kind of like a petite person, being shocked at the size of the placenta that came out of me both births.
Yeah.
But I also I think we did a delayed cord cutting, which was really nice, because I think in my first birth it was like, okay, out of the tub, we're gonna cut the cord, now get in bed. There was like all these steps, like everything was just like kind of rushed. And so it felt really great to just be like, let's just lay here. Let's birth the placenta. Do you want to lay here longer? Okay, cool. That's all right. Let's move to the bed. Everything was just so like mellow and like peaceful.
Yeah, at your pace.
Yeah, exactly. I didn't feel like pulled out or rushed or anything.
Yeah.
And then Christian was really excited about the placenta.
He was chomping at the bit, like.
Yeah, literally. And he even cut a piece and I think ate it raw right there. Blood dripping down his hand.
I know, because he asked me permission if he could, and I said, you got to ask her. It's her placenta. Yeah. And then when you said yes, I said, the only rule I have is you have to let me take a picture of you eating it. And yeah, the blood's like running down his hand. I was like, this is awesome.
He was so excited. He actually like put it in a few smoothies. I think he even fried it up one morning. Like, you are a strange person, but
I remember he was like, YOLO,
yeah.
only live once. This might be our last baby. Who knows?
Yep. That is Christian. Yeah, well, he was so disappointed with the first one. Because he just lives for experience, and so, and it grosses, he loves like kind of grossing his friends and family out there, like, you did what?
I love his description, because he was like, if you can get past like what it is, like stop thinking about it, then it's just like sashimi, warm sashimi.
Yeah.
And then he's like, but as soon as I like remember what it is, I can feel this like gag reflex kind of kick in.
Yeah, and then he's like, do you want some? I'm like, no, I'm all right. I'll have it. Like, I think I got it encapsulated that time. So
Yeah.
much more palatable, I guess you could say.
And then what about breastfeeding? I know you said you made a lot of milk, but I also do remember that you had a bout or two with mastitis.
That's right.
Sorry if you had blocked that from your memory and
I
brought it up
I
again.
totally forgot about that. Yes, because I was producing so much milk, and I think wearing the bras, like I think the bras were like slightly too small for me, and that, yeah, I just remember. Luckily, because I had had a little bit of it in the, it's a weird feeling. I usually caught it pretty early because I could just feel like feverish and like a little sore, and I would feel like a lump that was like tender. And so I just would massage, pump, and avoided like anything worse than just like a couple days of feeling like extra worn down.
Yeah. And my memory is that mastitis followed your trip to register his birth certificate, which I find to happen pretty often that first trip out, or like a first big thing that sometimes for some women, it can land them with mastitis for whatever reason. It's like this overdoing it, even if in your brain you weren't, like it was.
Well, for us to do that, you're right, because we were living in Mariposa, to get the birth certificate, we had to drive 4 hours with 2 kids, a toddler and a newborn, all the way to Petaluma. And that's like huge. That's like a 6-hour journey, So I remember and then you had to get to the office just before it closed, and it was really stressful. So just any kind of travel, I think, is just definitely overdoing it when you've just given birth. But we couldn't do it, so we kind of have no choice.
Yeah, right. Well, thank you for sharing your journey. Any other things that pop into your mind about maybe having 2 babies close in age? Words of wisdom for the moms out there who are like, ah.
Oh man, I think it's just, I love this saying. I think of this saying a lot to myself. The days are long, but the years are short. So to me, that's like when I'm having a really tough day, I'm like, whew, man, the days are long. But there's like, those moments that make it so worth it, where you see like our youngest Bodhi like loves kissing. So he'll like go up and kiss his brother and kiss the dog. And when you see them interacting and like starting to form a relationship, it's just like, this is why we did this. This is why we went through all this pain of having 2 under 3. And it even makes it tempting to have another, but we won't. So yeah, I would say it's totally doable. And if you need support, I am here. Reach out. I need more mom friends. So I hope this was inspirational to any women who are thinking about home birth, because it's a really magical, incredible experience.
If anyone does want to reach out, can you leave any contacts, like social media, and we can include it in the show notes too?
Yeah, definitely. I have an Instagram, C. Kevlin is my handle. And yeah, I'm obsessed with birth. I think after when I like things, maybe I'm a designer now, but I've always thought like maybe I'd become a doula someday. So just super obsessed with birth, tons of resources. So don't be shy if you want to reach out. Love chatting and making new mom friends.
Great. Well, thank you again for sharing.
Of course. Thank you, Sophia.
Thanks everybody for listening. You can find us at Born Wild Podcast on Instagram. For inquiries or feedback, you can email us at bornwildpodcast@gmail.com. You can find me, Emma Ray, on Instagram at Emma Ray, REA.
Sophia at sophiabirth.com.
And me, Leah, at Bay Area Home Birth.
we would really appreciate it if you would rate and review us on Apple Podcasts. It helps us reach more people. And as always, stay wild.